Archaeologists have discovered 6 Neanderthal remains. But these remains were neither buried and no respectable placement. They were slaughtered, kicked the meat, and their tongues are cut out. The skull was cracked open, remaining bones thrown into a pile like the bones of the prey. So what's going on here? Is it a choice of famine and despair or conflict? It could be a spiritual or religious act. Over 300,000 years, Neanderthals populated the vast northern regions. Survived. They're not half-human, half-beast monsters. They are our closest relatives in evolutionary history. When our ancestors were still in the south, they have gone north. Conquer the harsh environment there. Although people often see them with stereotypes. But actually, Neanderthals are a very complex group. They will use fire, can make exquisite stone tools. They can also hunt large animals, even bury the dead. And yet, we keep finding remains. There are undeniable signs of slaughter on the bones. So far, this relic, already in the entire Eurasian continent, 10 locations were discovered. So first we're going to look at the French Moriguel body, the discovery of caves. This was excavated in the 1970s. At that time, Neanderthal life is a textbook. So here we have deer, goat and woolly rhino bones. Indicates that it was a good harvest of hunting agent. They're incredibly skilled slaughterers. Precision cutting of flesh and tendons from bone. It also cleaves the intestinal bone. Remove the high-calorie bone marrow inside. Neanderthals handling prey. It's not a waste of energy. Squeeze every calorie. But their prey may not just be animals. It also included other Neanderthals. Archaeologists have discovered all 6 of those Neanderthal bones have slaughter on them. Knife marks. The technique is even like the plot in a horror movie. 2 young individuals had their facial masticatory muscles amputated. All the skull and intestinal bones were knocked open. Remove the brain. And it's not for rituals. It's for heat. And here's what's even weirder. Although they will use fire, but the bones show few signs of baking. This means that the meat is eaten almost raw, freshly chopped and swallowed directly. Come to think of it, that's not sashimi. They eat human flesh. Save the fire. The sound of this picture makes your scalp tingle. And the remains were also not buried or specially treated, because they are so explicit. The bones of other prey are mixed together. There seems to be no difference at all. Lead researcher, Armand D. Flickel said, human bone and animal bone are treated the same. It can be inferred that their purpose is the same. To eat this ruin, it depicts a cruel Neanderthal world, eating the baby's brain and tongue there. It's not considered taboo. It was a raid, when the line between predator and prey disappeared. Even for the same kind. But Mleganki, not the only place this happens. Hundreds of kilometers away, in northern Spain, in a dark cave in the mountains, the same creepy scene also emerged. About 49,000 years ago, at least 12 Neanderthals died here. But they didn't die. It was systematically mutilated. The skull was cracked open for the brain. Limbs were broken to retrieve bone marrow. No matter what happens here, he is neither quick nor clean. In Guyot Cave, at least 5 Neanderthal remains have been found, including children. They have cuts on their bones, scratches and signs of precise decomposition. And next to it lies the one being dealt with, identical reindeer and horse bones. So this is very clear. In the eyes of confidence, these Neanderthals are meat. It doesn't make any difference. There are at least 8 other Neanderthal sites around the world. Evidence of 10 people. Try to imagine that world. The sense of security is almost zero. Every stranger can be a threat. And sometimes it's not hunger that drives this violence. It's about power. Strong tribes attack weak tribes. Not because of lack of food, but because they can. Because to demonstrate dominance. When it's all over, they're not going to leave. They cut off the facial muscles of their victims, knock open the skull, remove the brain, then throw the bones into the deer, in a pile of bones like a horse, because at that moment, for them, there is no difference between man and prey. Although it depicts the survival of Neanderthal, the cruelest side. But then we need to add more thinking. Because as you will see, the reason for knowing people, it's more complicated than it looks. Many people think that knowing people is barbaric, but in fact he is not rare in nature. At least 1,500 species of organisms, including our feed on their own kind, the chimpanzees. In human history, because of hunger, isolation or ritual reasons, cannibalism is not uncommon. In some cases, people even rely on food. Only the dead can survive. Think about the story of the table party, mid-19th century. A group of American pioneers moved from the Midwest to California due to various mistakes on the road. Trapped in the rugged Sierra Nevada mountains, winter is coming. Rations run out. They starve to death. When they are about to starve to death collectively, the rest had to eat their deceased companions, even to Native Americans, also involved. These pioneers were no worse than anyone else. It's just bad luck that gets you into this predicament. It's easy for us to sit on the sidelines today, but they probably really didn't have a choice at the time. Now let's do a thought experiment. Thousands of years later, archaeologists have discovered the cannibal remains of a table party. How would they judge? We may analyze nutrients and stress on the bone, traces such as developmental delays, fragile bone, small movement on the skull. This shows that the body is extremely hungry. Self-decomposition. Some of the sites where Neanderthals knew people. The exact same characteristics were also found. For example, in the cave of Elsa in Spain and the cave of Malagurzi in France. There are signs of nutrition and hunger on the bones. Scientists tested Neanderthal tooth glaze, traces of qualitative growth, multiple cases of severe malnutrition, or signs of disease. It means they lived through repeated famines. Maybe they are really on the verge of starvation. The family was forced to eat the corpse in order to survive. Although not entirely sure about Elsa Cave, the Neanderthals, 10 people are due to famine. But it's no better than 19th century American pioneers. This is an important example of cruelty in the 1800s, because he allows us to better understand these people. They live in an extremely bad world. Harsh winter will force them to go without food for months on end. They're stuck in the cold. In such a desperate situation, they did what anyone would do in that situation, will do. Among the remains of the Luozian ruins, it is equally likely that there is evidence of human behavior. It also points to nutritional deficiencies, although the evidence from other sites is less clear. But at the Goya Tanafari site, the evidence for this phenomenon is overwhelming. Although this group appears to be, there was no famine. This behavior may suggest a darker motivation, and it's a really chilling motivation. It's possible that certain groups of Neanderthals will eat its own kind for food or revenge. There's no question, Neanderthals occasionally clashed with each other. After all, there is nothing better than senseless violence. More human. We do have evidence that Neanderthals occasionally killed each other, and the enemy that is killed may be eaten. It's not pure. Maybe even for practical reasons. After all, our bodies are essentially meat. The body of an adult contains approximately 100,000 calories. If there is no moral objection, why let so many calories rotten in vain? Even in some contemporary cultures, relatives are eaten. Rather, it is a way to honor them. The Gulf of Papua region of Papua New Guinea. It's the act of knowing people, and the last of places widely used. There are many reasons for this. One of the most common is eating a deceased relative. This is a kind of funeral cannibalism people believe. Instead of having the body eaten by dorms and worms, it is better to eat it by relatives. It is said that many barbarians even die. The family was explicitly asked to bury them in this manner. At the funeral, the body will be cooked, and it is mainly distributed to adult women, because people think they are the best people to carry souls. Cannibalism also occurs during times of war. Fallen enemies are considered a source of food. However, this behavior, spreading dangerous soft viral diseases, this kind of disease will spread through the population through this practice. Kar Cave in Croatia. There is a Neanderthal site. Very eye-catching. He gave us an alternative. Found it here, a dozen Neanderthal remains, all with cut marks and fracture marks. There's clearly been some misogyny going on, but this time the motive may not be hunger. When researchers analyzed the teeth of these remains, no signs of severe malnutrition were found, and the age of this site, just in time for a relatively warm period. The nearby wildlife resources are abundant. That is to say, these Neanderthals were not evil, cornered. They have other options for survival. This means that this act of understanding people is likely to have nothing to do with survival. Scientists speculate that he may be doing it for some symbolic purpose, because they weren't just mutilated. Their bones are decomposed with joints very carefully, and the cutting position, it doesn't always make sense. Some researchers believe that these remains could be examples of permanent dissection. It's good for removing soft tissue, but not for meat, but as a symbol. Spiritual or social behavior. Some of you may have heard of Tenzo. This custom is common in Zhejiang and surrounding areas. The human remains were left to the vultures. To identify these remains, it's usually done by a dedicated ceremonial dismemberment and stripping, then crush the bones. Mix in the flour and feed it to the crows. The belief behind this approach is, bald salvation helps souls ascend to the afterlife, and this is something that people really believe in, and out of respect. It's like Cropolac in France, caves and Monte Cristo caves, and so on. Similar dismemberment and scratch marks were also found, but there were no obvious signs of malnutrition. In these cases, some researchers have proposed Neanderthals may have had similar. The tradition of funeral handling. The body is mutilated and fed to the predators. It's a funeral. Custom makes it easy to think of Neanderthals. Think of that brainless, immoral savage hunter. Will hunt each other down and eat their own kind. But look at how diverse our own culture is. It's obvious. There are many reasons why Neanderthals ate their own kind. Some may be really hungry to the limit. You have to eat your dead relatives to survive. Some may be to complete a specific funeral ceremony. Feed your loved ones to the bald rescue. It's also possible to eat a loved one out of respect. It's almost certain. Violent, so there's hostile recognition. It was a cruel world after all. But if you were to call Neanderthals cannibals, then you must also admit our own relationship with this behavior. There are more. A clearer record. In comparison, Neanderthals should not have been labeled that way at all. Righteous cannibal label. In the approximately, in 300 Neanderthal remains, there are only about 15 sentences with evidence of 10 people. And even in these cases, there's controversy. Perhaps some Neanderthal groups, familiar with this behavior. But I dare say, many Neanderthals lived their entire lives, would never do such a thing. After all, there are also complete burial regrets to be found. This shows that their cultures vary widely from region to region. And the vast majority of Neanderthals did not practice 10 individuals. In my opinion, knowing people is human. One of the most interesting topics in school. He shattered the illusion of simple morality, challenges our perception of taboos. It also makes us rethink the boundaries of human nature and the so-called life. It's not just about what we do. It's about why we do it. Because being human is complicated. And the truth is, despite our moral assumptions, understanding people has always been a part of human history. So did Neanderthals sometimes eat people? Yes, but so are we humans. And always have been. But these remains doesn't make Neanderthals any less human. Maybe it just proves they're people just like us. So what do you think? Is knowing people necessarily wrong? Or could he mean something else as well? Leave the message area to you to discuss.